Hello everyone, I'm Grainwolf and welcome back to my channel. For this video I thought I'd focus on 3 people who lived during Britain's Bronze Age and were all buried in close proximity to Stonehenge. For context, the Bronze Age in Britain is usually dated between 2500 to around 750 BC. Unlike contemporary cultures in Europe and the Near East, Britain didn't seem to have a Copper Age or Chalcolithic, and rather entered the ages of metal via a combination of trade and the introduction of metalworking brought over by new populations from the continent. This mass population movement was undertaken by people often known as the beaker culture, so named for the shape of their pottery. It's a member of this cultural group that we will start with, known as the Amesbury Archer. By the early Bronze Age, for reasons which are still unclear and very much debated, the Neolithic population of the British Isles was largely replaced by a new and genetically distinct group. The beaker culture had already found a foothold on the European mainland, and around the year 2500 BC made a permanent movement onto the islands to the west. With them came a change in culture, a change in how the dead were buried, and even perhaps how they were viewed. Despite all the changes in society and technology, the new population seemed to honour the sacred sites of the earlier period. Stonehenge, for example, continued to play a major role in the world of the beaker people. One of the people who would have been around for that early period is known today as the Amesbury Archer, who was discovered during area development evaluations in 2002. He was born far from the place of his burial, with analysis of his teeth and bones, telling us he was born and spent his childhood somewhere in Alpine Central Europe. At some time in his early life after childhood, he, or perhaps he and his family, made a trek to the shores of England. At some point, he suffered a severe injury to his left leg, resulting in the loss of the kneecap. Because of this, he would have walked with a limp due to the subsequent atrophy of the leg. It's unclear when this injury occurred, however it didn't seem to hold him back judging by the richness of his burial. The Amesbury Archer died roughly at the age of 35 to 45, and was buried around 2450 to 2300 BC. In typical fashion of the beaker culture, he was placed in a crouched position laying on his left side, surrounded by a wealth of burial goods. Among these were a selection of beaker pots and a selection of metal tools, including 3 small knives and a cushion stone, which is believed to have been a portable gold-working anvil. It's the Amesbury Archer's grave which yielded the earliest evidence of goldworking in the UK, in the form of 2 gold hairtresses. These would have been clipped around braided hair, or dreadlocks, and have made the wearer stand out. Around him were a selection of barbed and tanged flint arrowheads, as well as a couple of stone wrist guards which would have been used for archery, hence the name of the burial. He was also buried with a shale belt ring, 2 boar's tusks, a common find in male beaker burials, and a piece of pyrite for fire starting. From the Amesbury Archer, we can see the first truly rich individual grave since the Paleolithic times on British shores. Why a man of such wealth or importance made the journey from Central Europe to the land of Stonehenge is anyone's guess, but it is quite clear that the site was viewed with much reverence by those who came after its original builders. Next is the burial known as the Upton Lovell Shaman, dated to around 1850 to 1700 BC during the Middle Bronze Age. This period is known for richly furnished burials, often reflecting both high status and specialised skills. The individual, an adult male, was laid in a crouched position beneath a round barrow. This grave contained an unusual and carefully arranged collection of artefacts. Among the most striking were polished stone axes, bronze awls and pins, jet and faience beads, and bone dress fittings, some of which may have been sewn into clothing. A particularly notable group of artefacts includes worked stones, showing microscopic traces consistent with goldworking, such as touchstones and abrasive stones. These tools suggest the individual had practical knowledge of working precious metals, potentially shaping gold or other materials. This makes the burial one of the clearest examples in Britain of a craftsman's toolkit placed in a funerary context. The grave also contained a tattoo kit, a set of small tools interpreted as instruments for marking the skin. These may indicate that the individual bore special tattoos, which could have signified status, identity, or a ritual role. In some early Bronze Age communities, metalworkers and spiritual leaders may have had distinctive tattooed markings, linking their craft and ceremonial responsibilities. Other items in the grave reinforce both functional and symbolic aspects of the burial. flanged axes and bronze pins reflect practical metalworking skills, while jet and faience beads, bone fittings, and possibly dyed textiles demonstrate connections to aesthetic or ceremonial traditions. The assemblage also included rare or exotic materials, highlighting access to trade networks and high-status resources within southern Britain. The combination of artefacts, craft tools, decorative objects, and the tattoo kit supports the interpretation that the Upton Lovell individual held a dual role. He was likely a metalworker skilled in precious materials, and also a ritual specialist, with ceremonial responsibilities acknowledged by his community. The careful placement of these items within the grave, alongside evidence of wear and use, demonstrates the importance of both skill and social identity in Middle Bronze Age Britain. Overall, the Upton Lovell Shaman provides us with one of the most complete examples of a burial reflecting specialised craft and ritual authority together. The artefacts and their arrangement seem to show that technical skill, material prestige, and ceremonial function were closely intertwined in Bronze Age society, and that the community placed significant value on individuals who occupied these combined roles. Lastly, I thought I'd introduce the Bush Barrow Chieftain, buried south of Stonehenge in Wiltshire. This grave dates to around 1950 BC, placing it in the early Bronze Age, within the Wessex culture, a period known for richly furnished barrow burials. The individual was an adult male, and clearly of high status in his community, with some articles labelling him as the King of Stonehenge. The size and construction of the barrow, together with the quality of the grave goods, indicate he held a position of social authority, such as a leader or chieftain. The burial contained an extraordinary range of artefacts. Among the most distinctive is a large gold lozenge, shaped as a flat, thin sheet, and decorated with intricate geometric patterns. Some scholars have suggested that the angles of these incisions might correspond to the orientation of the summer and winter solstices at Stonehenge. This is a theory rather than a confirmed fact, but it highlights the possibility that the design had symbolic or astronomical significance. A gold belt plate, sometimes described as a buckle, and a smaller gold lozenge were also included in the grave. These items would have signalled status and wealth and may have been worn during life as markers of rank or office. The dagger from this burial is exceptional. Its wooden hilt was originally covered with as many as 138,000 gold studs, each around 0.25mm in diameter, arranged at a density of over 1,000 studs per square centimetre. It's theorised that the nature of this work would have required someone with small fingers, smaller than the average adult hand at least. The handle's decoration resembles fine gold embroidery and demonstrates an extraordinary level of skill in early Bronze Age metalworking. This makes the dagger not only a functional weapon, but also a high-status object, reflecting wealth, craftsmanship, and the social standing of the chieftain. The sheer number and precision of the studs mark it as one of the most technically sophisticated artefacts from this period in Britain. A stone mace, carefully shaped and decorated with bone mounts, was also included. In this context, maces are interpreted as symbols of authority rather than practical weapons. They were markers of leadership and power in early Bronze Age society. Other items include a flat bronze axe of Brittany type, rivets or fittings of bronze, and a large ceramic pot, probably placed as part of the burial ritual. Collectively, these objects show both access to high-status materials and connections to broader trade and cultural networks. His burial demonstrates the early Bronze Age practice of signalling rank and social importance through material culture. The Bush Barrow Chieftain is therefore one of the most complete examples in Britain of a richly furnished barrow, reflecting status, authority, and technical skill. The artefacts, from gold plates to the mace and dagger, show how communities expressed hierarchy, ritual significance, and the value of specialised knowledge during this period. These have been just three of the many ancient people who once called Britain home during the first age of metal. Some display wealth, especially in the case of the Bush Barrow Chieftain, which even today would be considered highly valuable. Some raise interesting questions about spirituality and knowledge. For example, who was the Upton Lovell Shaman? Was he simply someone who knew how to change rock to liquid and create metal? Or was his role far more esoteric? Or perhaps his function combined the two, bringing forward new technology, even while the bones which hung from his cloak rattled around him? If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, so I know to make more like this. If you want more prehistory in your life, please check out my Instagram and Patreon linked below. As always, I've been Grey and Wolf, and thank you for watching.